Hi, and welcome back. I am Paige Elizabeth, and my brand is Creating Through Connection. And I have decided to start like a little mini series introducing some of the women in my life who I deal with on a regular basis and some of the stuff that they're known for in terms of what they do. And it kind of got this idea off of a post that I saw because there's just so much misinformation going around. And I don't want to put down Christians necessarily, but unfortunately, it's that Judeo-Christian model that has kind of been, poking at other things that don't coincide. Ironically, if they were to do their own homework in history, they would find out that it actually birthed from some form of their own ancestry in terms of their religious beliefs. So I actually decided to bring on Necie, who I have known, I think, since 09, 10, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Oh,
Long
yeah,
time.
definitely.
We're peers, we're the same age, and we're good friends. And Nisi practices tarot. Nisi is a modern day mystic and witch, and practices witchcraft. And because it's become a little bit of a hot button, I just want to break down some stereotypes and get to the nitty-gritty about this world. I've studied it all, and that includes not like any like I haven't practiced any like black magic, but I've definitely gotten my hands on the theology of pretty much everything just because I like to learn. And so I find it very fascinating, especially when you think about like historically how the Salem witch trials and how just women were so powerful and how they were treated as a result of their abilities. And we've been living under this veil of patriarchy ever since, and that only men have the authority and men have the power. And coming from a Mormon religion where it's only men can carry the priesthood and all that stuff. And for me, because I am naturally psychic and I am naturally empathic and intuitive, and I have prophetic dreams and things, for me to buy into that paradigm, I would have to deny who I am, which I won't do. So anyway, welcome, Nisi.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself first and how you kind of got into what you do, just so people kind of know you.
Um, I've been doing tarot, like like so I grew up in the 90s and Sabrina the Teenage Witch and the movie from the 80s, Teenage Witch. I don't remember what it's called, but and then of course there was the craft. And so when I was in high school, I was definitely raised in a very strict kind of Christian household. And again, I am not bashing Christians. In this day, I am I am cool with Christians.
More so
Jesus,
than me, probably.
well, I mean, I think Jesus has set a very good example. If his followers strive to live up to the example that he set, you're good. You're a good Christian in my book. But anyhow, but being that I was raised in a very stuffy environment, of course, my rebellion would go in the direction of religion. And so it started out as, well, what's the opposite of Christianity? And so then I got a tarot deck and and then I was like, oh, but like this is actually working. It wasn't supposed to work. It was just supposed to piss off mom and dad. And then from there, I'm heavy in scholastics as well. And so I went on to be basically a career student. Then I got a bachelor's of science in nursing. And so my whole life I've had the duality of, skepticism and, we got to be able to like test this stuff out and like, you know, is this magic or is this just, did you just have too many leaves on your candle and that's why it, burst into flames, like that. And I've had just a long dance with that in terms of there are just things consistently that have not been able to be explained by science. And nowadays, I like to say something to the effect of a lot of our science, it used to be magic. And so a lot of things like, ESP and remote viewing, and there's all these interesting things that we're either finding out that the government has been doing interesting research on themselves for a very long period of time. But there's a lot of juicy things that probably are not that far away from being more in the realm of science rather than just like woo woo. And so these days, I don't spend as much time trying to prove where a lot of the magic stuff that I am encountering and that I'm engaged with, where it's coming from. Like I'm not like these cards work because of this.
Right,
You know,
right.
the cards work. Thank you. That's all. Like for me, this pendulum works for me. Thank you. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter to me if you believe me or not, because your belief in that I believe doesn't stop what is happening in my own reality, sort of deal. I've always been a very strong manifester. That is like I'm a manifester, and so for 20 years or so now, I've had a psychic business, tarot based, but it's branched out to include spellcrafting, which just means I make up spells and then cast them and then utilize them or put them in sync with my life. And I help others do the same. And I do Reiki, which is energy healing. And so, it's just, I've got a lot of modalities that I draw from, as well as still being a nurse and still being committed to aspects of science that might seem not exactly congruous to somebody who is like a full-fledged witchcraft practitioner. So
I think it's like in all that I've studied, I have a very hard time denying anything. For me, it's more encompassing it. So like when the Mormon missionaries are like, oh, why don't you go back to church, or why did you leave? My reasoning is not that like, oh, like your beliefs are wrong. It's that your beliefs are incomplete. It's like you have this much of a box that you guys live in terms of your experience and your belief system, whereas my experience and belief system is out here.
Yeah, like
And I
it's encompassing.
it's encompassing. Yeah, mine is not, it's not dualistic in terms of like, I have to make them wrong so that I can validate this one. No.
Yeah.
Like for me, it all roads lead to Rome, essentially. And like I've heard many people talk about how rituals are so evil, and it's like, well, rituals are a part of, you're Christian, right? So rituals are part of what you do. You're Jewish, right? Like rituals are part of what you do. If you don't get to like say it's bad because someone else is doing it, you do it too. Do you take the sacrament? Okay, you participate in a ritual. You know what I mean? Like these
representing the body, the pot.
So, and yeah, and I don't understand that part. Like, in fact, for me, like the more I can study and the more I can understand about life and the more that I can gain information about what is out there, the more like tools I have in my box. That's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as, especially as you go back in the history and how it's all really just intertwined. Like it all kind of has the same roots, all of it. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that like I said to this one woman, I said, like really and truly witchcraft could in theory be considered the shadow side of Christianity. I hate to break it to you. Demons. Okay, I think it was the Catholics that coined that term. So I don't know why you're throwing that on yogis. Like that's not part of their vernacular. But anyway, and that's another thing that annoys me because I'm like, they'll do that. Like certain religions will project onto other religions when that's not even part of their belief system.
Yeah.
Like they don't even believe in like good versus evil as much as they just believe in energy. So And so anyway, like, but again, I can appreciate the differences, because if you, like I said, if you trace it all back, it all kind of has the same roots and it all is trying to go in the same place ultimately. It just seems like everything exists on a spectrum. And I had one conversation with a man who was trying to deny astrology. And I said, God created the stars and the planets. How could you deny that? Astrology is just the story behind it. That's it. That's it. Astronomy is the numbers, that's the math, and astrology was just the story they put to it so they could make sense of it. But if you believe in God, do you not believe in the stars and the planets? Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't know. It's a lot of times people just want to, like, one fell swoop, that sort of stuff. Because again, instead of realizing that, like, you don't know everything and you can't possibly know everything. So therefore you can't explain everything. Everything's not going to fit in a box. So, well, I had a relationship with this lady and she was into astrology and she was dumb. So now astrology's dumb. So no, astrology's dumb. And obviously I'm characterizing because that dude might have, his own well-founded research beliefs why astrology doesn't make sense. But I'm willing to bet that he did not actually sit down with somebody who practices astrology as a lifelong
Modality.
modality instead of just reads the Sunday paper and looks for their sun sign and like what's going on with their sun sign. A lot of times when, you actually get down to the nitty gritty and you start actually kind of, plugging in stuff, you may not make a believer out of everybody who's like astrology's fake, but you do at least show that there's more to it than just the Sunday paper sun sign, kind of situation.
No, absolutely.
And that's, but yeah, that goes along with everything. I mean, there's so many things in the Bible itself. I mean, let's, like, we don't even have to get into the part where it, it was rewritten and, and okay, like whoever's transcribing it, let's just pleasantly turn our face against that part. But there's a lot of indications in the Bible, depending on the interpretation, that support what we call, I'm not going to say like modern day witchcraft, but like rituals, like just aspects of things that are supposedly supposed to be belonging in under the pagan camp.
We can't get away from rituals. I brush my teeth every day.
No. That's, what it's just all these things, like the symbolism, translates into rituals in a way, and then rituals are something that we take a comfort in, or that mark a tradition, or mark time passing, or mark a significant thing. A wedding, like a baby shower. I mean, there are too many things out there that you don't actually want to give up if you're actually mad about this stuff.
Well, and that's where, like, there was recently this great awakening, and I'm not a fan of the QAnon community, but they were all about just the symbolism and the symbolism and the symbolism and trying to understand. And look, I believe the world is run by psychopaths. I'm gonna definitely put my money on that. But I'm not interested in undoing every aspect of my life to the point where it's sanitized and now I cease to exist or enjoy anything because they have found a way to somehow tarnish it. I just can't. I have to exist in this life. I have to find pleasure in simple things to keep going. And so, like, if I watch a fucking Hollywood movie, like, just to zone out one night, so be it. Like, I'm not an evil person for that.
Yeah.
But like the way that some people's thinking has gone these days is it's like, oh, well, okay, yeah, fine, but I'm just gonna zone out and watch these actors on screen because that's what I need right now. Leave me alone.
I mean, and that overlaps with like cancel culture, but like overall, like everyone has a personal responsibility to, like, when you know better, do better. And like if you decide that something that's important to you, you find out information that like a thing, a practice, a company, a concept is not in alignment with your, how you want to live your life, then that's cool. But like, don't like, you don't know my personal experience and you don't know your neighbor's personal experience. And so you need to be keeping your nose on your own work and do your own work and work on your own things.
Well, I had mentioned that it didn't feel like Christmas in Florida on a post, and this guy goes, "Well, but you're not supposed to celebrate it. You're not Christian." And I was like, me making a mental note that it doesn't feel like Christmas in Florida. I don't need to have a tree up. I wasn't like decorating or anything like, and normally I actually would, just to kind of like, I enjoy the season shift, just
Yeah.
the shift. But it was like it didn't exist in Florida. It was really weird. But I'm like, I'm not allowed to like make an observation now because I don't practice Christianity. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, just
Well,
go.
that's the commercialization of things like Easter and Christmas. And I mean, really, you could, I mean, I'm not equating it in a spiritual way, but like you could put Valentine's Day there in too. Like there's, you don't have to practice something to either appreciate it or just to
I'm
be,
sure you got your back rubbed up on Halloween, like, hey, bitches, like, you
well,
going on Sunday, then get the fuck off my porch.
yeah, like it's like, people are like dressing up like a ghost. I'm like, well, do you want to come in and meet a real one? I mean, you, I'm not over here like, oh my God, don't talk about Halloween. You don't practice witchcraft, you know,
Right. It's too
that's,
much anymore. People are like, they don't
they just
realize.
want to be mad. They want to be mad. And that
Mhm.
stems from not having an outlet of some sort. And that's going to be a big thing that this community is going to offer for people.
Yeah, the nice thing about the community I'm creating is that all walks of life are welcome. I personally welcome all walks of life. I'm good. I've traveled enough to know that like you can't, this is even in my book, like the way that you're raised, the culture that you're raised in totally affects the paradigms that you live by, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like if you were raised in Thailand, you're gonna have a radically different paradigm than if you were raised in Morocco or London or Los Angeles, and that's totally perfectly fine. And I can appreciate that, you know? So I do welcome women from all walks of life because at the end of the day, I think the one thing we all share is this, I won't say it on here. I was gonna say the burden of men, but
uh, you know, to a degree, I mean, the patriarchy, man. Yeah.
I think we could pretty much go to any country and all kind of like, hash out our stuff with men, but whatever.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit from what you've studied and learned and practiced in terms of like, because I've kind of skipped the whole paganism thing. Like I've dabbled in it from touching on things like witchcraft or occult or um uh what is it? Gnosticism? Gnost.
Yeah. Not, yeah.
Like I've dabbled in that, but I fell right into astrology, which predates all of that. So that's, as you know, I love astrology.
Mhm.
Um, but let's talk about like paganism and where all this came from, because paganism was like all over at one point.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll make the caveat or the prerequisite statement that I don't claim to be an expert in explaining this stuff, but it's paganism. Like, so a lot of the mythology that, like, if you go to a mythology class in college or high school, you'll learn about the Greeks or the Romans or, like different pantheons, like the Egyptian, and in a scholarly context, those serve to illustrate some cultural um, reasons for behavior or why this belief is here, why this superstition exists, or where it stemmed from. Though ultimately, um, the like a lot of the mythology is rooted in like real people believing in and worshiping those deities or those gods and goddesses or however you want to characterize the whatever is the bigger than and so I mean obviously we want there to be a reason we exist. And
Mhm.
so in the search for significance and why we're here and who put us here, there's going to be, it's just the same thing as like, the sandwich was invented in, a bunch of different places in the world, and it's different derivatives of a kind of sandwich. It's not a great example, but and so like with paganism, there's a lot of different like how Christianity has a lot of sects,
Yeah,
SECT.
yeah, yeah.
So paganism has that as well. Paganism has there's Druidism, where they focus a lot on like nature. Like, so nature is going to be a big focus for the majority, like the vast 99.9 percent of any sort of paganism. But like the Druids have a special kind of affinity for like nature, forest, trees. Again, I'm very severely generalizing, paraphrasing here. Then there's then in I think it was like the 70s or the 80s, going into the 90s, Wicca, Wiccan, Wiccan is like that came like that got really big. Like the book company Llewellyn, which if you're into any kind of paganism, you're like, oh, Llewellyn, they publish a lot of the tarot decks and a lot of the books, Scott Cunningham's, just a lot of the, Spiral Dance, just a lot of the books that if you're in the age range of 40s, or you just, getting going in like the 80s, 90s, that would be something that was a big resource for you. So Wicca, kind of came on board and started to try to, I don't want to say like not steal the show. Like I'm not adverse to Wicca or like Wiccans, but like when people are like, oh, you practice Wicca? I'm like, no, I practice witchcraft.
What's funny is
It's,
I just have a story real quickly, because that reminds me when I worked at Pure Nightclub, and I don't know how it got around, something that I was like into witchcraft or something, that I was
oh, was that just probably simply a byproduct of you doing like astrology?
I don't know, but
Like,
they
she practices witchcraft.
yeah, they thought I was into it. I forgot. I was definitely into manifesting at that time, but I definitely like I don't know nothing about it. But it was going around that like I was practiced witchcraft, or I was a witch. But the girls were so fucking mean to me. But I was like, okay, great. Well, then don't fuck with me.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just interesting that you're gonna like talk about that, but like, what are the implications of that?
Oh, really, really? Like, well, then don't mess with me if that's, clearly what you think. But,
Pick up
you
a
know,
hair of theirs. Interesting, Sandra. Hope you're gonna be okay later.
and of course I got fired because I picked up from a novelty shop like a voodoo doll. Like, I don't know,
Oh,
I don't know how to do voodoo either. I
oh
don't
my
even know how, but I put
goodness. That's a
I
cool.
put Matt Tiffany's initials on it because he was the manager who was bullying me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got fired for having that. And they tried to discriminate against me. They were like, you can't do that. I forgot what they said. And I almost
What they would
retaliated
like call it like
and called it
harassment or something.
religious discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I was accused by their HR person of doing seances. I think I actually did say that in the meeting. I think I actually did. When
And
no, exactly. When I met with HR and my GM with the woman who represented the culinary, so
mm,
the union, she represented me. I think I actually said that. I think I actually said to her, I said, um, you know, witchcraft is technically, kind of like a religious belief, and seances come from Catholicism. So if anything, this is religious discrimination.
like, okay,
That,
whatever.
if I remember correctly, like that shut them down
Hmm.
pretty quickly. They were trying to like scapegoat me. Ironically, the guy who I was trying to make fun of, they ended up firing or demoting and then firing because he just started bullying other girls. And then because I had set a precedence, they all went to the union. Of course, I'm the only one that got fired, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I took one for the team.
yeah.
But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that reminded me of like that one time.
Well, and that's an example of how, people just run with stuff that they don't like understand, and they try to use it against you. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, if you really think that she is a witch, I'm not confident that like poking the bear makes the most sense. But but like so, like Wicca had a big, like surgence. Not, I wouldn't call it a surgence. It's having a resurgence like now, but like it had a big surge, and that kind of went along, a decent amount of way in terms of getting witchcraft in the kind of light where it's not sacrificing babies and drinking, like actual blood and, doing hexes and curses left and right. Like, in fact, Wicca is very, like, they've got the threefold law and, thou shalt not. I mean, so it's very, like, you don't really curse and hex, like, if you're like a Wicca practitioner. Um, and so there's a bunch of different kind of offshoots that you can worship. I mean, there's a lot of things under the umbrella of witchcraft that kind of how you're talking about. Was it the yogi? What was it, yogini? What did you just the yogi, like kind of how we were talking before.
Trying to say that in yoga they practice witchcraft.
Yeah, and that's not like maybe somebody who like practices witchcraft also has a yoga practice, but like inherently you don't come to the mat of yoga
To summon
and
demons or
you got to bring, Hecate or Isis, yup. Who are you? Who are you sacrificing?
well, and
That's
again, like demons, that just the term demons, like, is that in witchcraft, would you use that terminology? Like, do you
right.
summon demons in
Well,
witchcraft?
yeah. So there is like demonology, and there is a practice of that revolves around um summoning demons for the purpose. So like a lot of, so again, everyone has their own practice, but
Mhm.
okay, I'm only prerequisiting that, but so there's a whole like offshoot where um you would summon a demon that has, purview over a specific area of life that you would like to get a better handle on, or more, more better affinity with. And the majority of people who work with demons in that capacity, um, they summon the demon and effectively they control it by being smart enough to kind of having a container. And obviously, I'm speaking in a more ethereal or like metaphoric concept when I say container, but it could be a container, but usually it's a metaphoric like container of which the demon has the ability to exert what it needs to exert. And so, are there some people who straight up worship demons? Like, yes, but there are people who worship the devil, like the devil, not like, because a lot of Levian, a lot of Satanists don't actually worship the devil, you know, like Levian
Well,
Satanism is you are effectively the god, and like the Church of Satan, Templates has done a lot more for people than a lot of churches have done
okay,
for
so
people.
what's interesting about a Satanist as opposed to a Luciferian, because there's a very
Yeah,
big difference
yeah,
between those two.
yes,
Huge difference between those two. And I
yeah,
am much more afraid of Luciferians than I am
yeah,
of Satanists,
yeah.
100%.
Because a Luciferian would be like worshiping they would be more worshiping the demons and doing so in a manner that is like a level of chaotic. I don't like,
The history that I got on
it's
this, and
not a good plan. I mean, but
yeah, so when I was doing some research on the Luciferians, and I went back all the way to the Anunnaki, this book I read, and it talked about how basically Zionists, they rejected the idea of the Messiah, and they were like, no, Lucifer is our guy. Fuck
because
you,
he
God.
was a fallen angel. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, so
And they're like,
it's,
fuck you, God.
yeah,
Lucifer's our guy. We'll show you. And so it's the Zionists who are essentially Luciferian that worship Moloch and the demons and stuff. And they're the ones who, yeah, they're the ones who are ultimately trying to control, I guess.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think a lot of I mean, yeah, yeah. And I mean, like, and so would I call on a demon? I mean, in my own practice, I would be unlikely to call on a demon, but I have relationships with deities that I have ways in which I want to accomplish things that I feel work into the process personal responsibility, and like there's a difference between getting like liposuction or changing your diet and starting to exercise. Which one's going to be quicker? Well, liposuction. But which one is going to set you up for a better foundation? Like, and obviously I'm not talking about instances where you do work out and you want to like fine tune something so you get like a little bit of but I mean like in like just a very like generalized thing. Like if you want to lose a bunch of fucking, weight, you, you're gonna surgery, or are you gonna, change what you can? And so a lot of the witchcraft that I practice is aimed to get results that are attainable, maintainable, and that are in sync with what I'm trying to do. Like the demon offshoot is, I mean, you can get results, and I suppose if I was faced with a situation where some very unique circumstances came about and I felt that there were some very unique results that I needed to get in a very unique time frame, that would be available to me. There would be a price to pay. So uh, that's what I got to say about the demons. And like how I feel about the demons is, I think, very similar to how a lot of people view what they would refer to as like black, like the witchcraft. Oh, you do like good or bad? Are you cursing and hexing, or are you doing more positive manifestation, love and light abundance kind of stuff? And I practice a form of witchcraft in which it's a lot of gray area, and it's your intention that dictates whether an action is black or white in the context of like nefarious or positive. It is not the actual action itself.
Totally.
And that's, and so, and a lot of that depends on having a value set, and boundaries, and personal responsibility, and the willingness to actually own up to your own trauma and how your trauma is trying to face you and put you out into the world, versus you again taking personal responsibility for this stuff. And so another word that comes up a lot, especially lately in witchcraft, is shadow work. And so shadow work, I mean, there's a lot of Jungian, psychological like influences with that. But, well, not but as in refuting, but but it's a very valuable tool to dig deep and go places within yourself. And does, when you do magic, whether it's for yourself or on behalf of other people, you're informed about like why you're doing stuff, and like what makes the most sense, and like how far back do you have to go to kind of then spring forward. If you're upset about a relationship ending, utilize shadow work before you do spell work, because then that will dictate, am I about to do a spell to get that person back against all odds, or am I going to do a spell to release the things that are not serving me and to embrace the things that will serve me and keep me in alignment with my highest and best good, whatever I'm trying to do with my life? Well, shadow work will guide me towards the second option, whereas being lost in your bullshit will inevitably get you on the first. So it's,
Yeah, intention is everything.
Yeah.
And it is really, it's a great tool however you want to call it. I remember, so 2 years after my brother died, my cousin commits suicide. And I just remember telling my sister, I was like, this isn't good. Like we've lost two beautiful young men in our family. I don't know what's going on. And literally, like within a couple of weeks, I had a dream that we were taking a family photo at my parents' house. In front of the house, he was still alive, but there was a gargoyle behind him laughing, saying, ha ha ha, because I did that. And that really kind of like shook me up. And I was like, okay, I need to look into this. And so then that led me to someone who said, you should have your candles read. And I'm like, well, what's that? That was new to me. And she said, you're gonna take the glass candles and you're gonna, I think I had to meditate, I had to burn it like a certain amount, or I can't remember exactly. And I had to meditate on it. And then you send it in and they read the pattern.
Mhm.
And I did that. And she goes, something is siphoning your energy. Like something is actually siphoning your energy. And I was like, okay, because I definitely I'd felt off for a while since my brother died. It'd been 2 years. And I was like, that makes sense. Because I literally just couldn't get my life back together. It was such a hard 2 years. And so then I talked to another friend of mine who was similar to you. And she said, you should, now that we kind of know that, you should have your aura looked at by this shaman out of the UK. So I email him, I sent him the photo, he can read auras, and he said, yeah, you have a big gaping hole in your aura and a couple entities or whatever. So he clears it, shows up the hole. I lost 10 pounds after that experience. I kid you not, I lost 10 pounds after that. All
No,
water weight. I had water weight that I couldn't get rid of since my brother's death, since I got the liver flukes too. It wouldn't go away. And then after he did that treatment on me, I kid you not, 2 weeks later, 10 pounds of water weight gone.
no, I
And
mean that
so,
makes sense.
so when people like are skeptical, I'm like, under the right conditions, it's pretty effective, some of these things.
Yeah, no, I mean it is, and again, like it just goes based off of like what you're willing to participate or believe in or like feel that makes sense for you. It's like take what resonates and then like leave the rest. So I do readings for and energy work for, and even to some degree spell work for people who would not call themselves like, they definitely won't call themselves a witch. They wouldn't even call themselves like any sort of a practitioner. They wouldn't say that they're a pagan, but they're coming to me for my services because for some reason their path led them to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's you don't have to believe, like, I don't know, you don't need to believe in it for it to have relevance.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, I always tell people, like, just because you read something doesn't mean you have to make a decision about it.
Yeah,
You can
it's
just
just,
read it and let it be there. You don't have to go, is this true? Is this false? Do I believe it? Do I agree? Do I not? Is this going to go with my belief? Like, it doesn't matter. Just let it sit on the table, metaphorically.
but that's the thing, everybody wants to compartmentalize, they want to label, they want everything neat, tidy, and like defined. Do
No,
I feel,
totally.
do I believe in this? Do I think this is right? Do I think this person like has validity? Like, all you need to figure out is, does it work for you?
Totally. And like to just let it be present, and like you don't have to stick it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it hasn't found, maybe it will have a box one day, but it doesn't yet. So you just leave it
Exactly.
on the table, you know what I mean? And you don't have to make a quick judgment about it. And from a psychological perspective, people do this to feel safe. I get that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong, I'm safe, you're not.
Yeah.
Like
Like
that,
it's your fault. There has to be fault and it's yours.
you can't break the rules and be okay, because I'm not breaking the rules. So that's the only way that you can be okay, is to just stay in the lines,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
No,
I
that's
I found a great TikTok and she actually explained that it was a therapist who explained that like so well, how people do that. And a lot of them come from religious backgrounds or cults like I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it very rigid thinking where it
Oh
has
yeah,
to be this way or that way,
yeah,
or you're out. You know what I mean? And just the shame that comes with it. And they can't just let information go in and out without doing something with it, because just the very nature of them looking at it makes them feel obligated to do something about it.
yeah. I
And
mean, but it's really easy on top of the psychology of like wanting to be safe to, then examining concepts of like looking at like control, and like how we're opened up talking about the Salem witch trials, and like there's a lot of laws and rules and superstitions that are built around trying to control a certain faction of a population, and therefore like in order for that control to be exerted and maintained, you have to believe in these things. So now we have to make up rules and laws for all these things. And so, like, so of course, people are going to have this mentality when they're coming from something that's super rigid and structured. Like, of course, they're going to want to compartmentalize everything, or, have everything in a box. Like, of course they are. Like,
right.
everything that they are and believe in dictates that, like, there's a reason for everything, and that reason can be discernible and traced back to that which they are placing their power in, and it's wild. You gotta make sure you're not doing that yourself a lot, especially when you have like in witchcraft, we're we're not safe from a lot of the fanaticism that we would a person would stereotypically ascribe to like followers of Christ. We're like, oh well, followers of Christ, they're not following his word, they're following like the perversion of the Bible and like the prophecy, what is that, the wealth prophecy, like these different things that are super major perversions of actual like Christ's words. Same thing, you got spiritual psychosis left and right. You got people in here, spiritual bypassing, and like, oh well, if you just believe it, you must not be believing it hard enough. You just must not be envisioning it. Where's your vision board? Like, where is it? I that's your problem. Bitch, I got cancer. You didn't vision board hard enough. Yeah, it's
Oh, totally. And
like it gets wild. So nobody's free from that. you know.
well, and then like, I mean, obviously when you are raised in a very like religious home, like a Christian home, or I was raised Mormon, right? And it's the gaslighting is just unreal. Just unreal. Like you're having marriage issues. You didn't pray hard enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you
You know
didn't,
what I mean?
you're having marriage issues, you're not serving your husband well enough. My husband hits me. He's allowed to. Okay. My husband devalues me. He's
Yeah,
allowed.
like I'm
You're
just
not serving him well enough. Get the gun. I mean,
oh,
okay.
like obviously I've never been married, but like growing up and just not feeling the spirit. Oh, you need to read your scriptures more. It didn't matter. Like there was no humanness allowed, and that's where I get.
That's the threat though. Like where the humanness is, the individuality is, and that is the beginning of the threat.
Mhm. Yeah, no, true.
Just it's wild. Like that's that little, like a very simple little meme where it's like a kid that has butterfly wings on, and it's adults with big shears just cutting off the wings. I mean, that's a lot of the indoctrination, that we perform as adults. Even those of us who like want individuality, like we've gone through it, so we have to catch ourselves and make sure we're not doing the same, to those coming up behind us. We don't want to eat our young.
Well, and it's a shame too, because again, just kind of back to my original point, like it not that everything out there is sunshine and roses and beautiful, but like, I think inherently we can all agree we deserve to have our free will. And how do you exercise free will if you just don't exercise your free will? People have a right to, believe what they want, choose what they want, feel how they want, and to constantly like shame people for it. I don't know.
It's not productive. That's for
No,
sure.
no,
I
at
mean,
all.
but the big rub on that, which is an obvious statement, is like, and this is something that like LaVeyan Satanists, like kind of, focus. It's like your will stops where mine kind of starts. So, because people always, go to the extreme. Oh, well, if we're all just supposed to be able to do what we want, what's to stop me from killing you? What's to stop me from graping somebody? Like, I don't know how the YouTube algorithms are going to pick up on words, but
Right.
assaulting, sexually, what's to stop me? I don't know. Like,
Maybe
I
my
don't think it's normal in any kind of walk of life to want to like, or, like assault somebody in any nature. So like, next question, but that's where we always got to spend all of our time in these sorts of discussions is, well, why can't I do the most extreme example? What's to stop me? That's you're out of the question now. Like that's not. I'm talking about like, do you want to eat meat or do you want to be a vegan? Do you want to have children or not? How do you want to like raise them effectively? Like, we're not talking about
I know
murder.
that's they have
It's
to,
just it's,
and they have to go to the extremes, but it's like, well, if you need a Bible to tell you how to live your life because you're
not
not
to do those
smart
things.
enough to just know that that wouldn't be a good idea, well, then I guess you do need that. I don't know what
Yeah,
to tell you,
you do exactly.
right?
Like the rest of us are cool out here, not assaulting each other.
And the thing is also, it's not, they talk about faith, but they're never driven by faith. They're driven by
No,
fear. The very act of having to shame another person and shut it down. I'm not in fear of how other people live their life. I can confront it and look at it and leave it on the table and move on with my day. I'm not afraid of that. I'm strong enough in myself, in my own convictions. If I adopt something, it's because it works for me. And you know what? Like, there's a lot of times I've adopted things and then it works for a season and then I put it back down and I adopt something else. Right?
yeah,
Because life is transient that way. Life is
yeah,
changeable that way. And so to have these hard parameters around yourself, and again, and then to project outward onto others, this this is wrong, and I
because yeah,
when Jesus comes, then you'll understand or whatever. It's like,
yeah. No, I mean a lot of times like faith is only brought up to keep someone in line, but it's brought up like you're saying as a fear mechanism.
no,
It's
I would
not
not
like
as a
the
fear mechanism.
that's yeah. So it's I mean but I mean but again that's why a lot of Christ's teachings are like the bee's knees. It's just the followers, but again there's shitty followers in every like walk of life. And so ultimately you just have to be able to gauge if whoever you're engaging with, like, you need to have discretion and discernment. Like, are you talking to a brick wall? Like, are you trying to have a in-depth conversation with somebody who is only hell-bent on like maintaining their own limited trajectory? Like, if so, like you got to get out, you got to get away, go continue, get yourself out of the way, because it's like, and like if you're at a store and somebody's being really rude to you, like, the whole turn your other cheek, and it's like in some instances it doesn't make sense to engage with somebody who's just having an absolute shitty day, because you're likely not going to change their day. If your integrity states that like you should turn away, like, and maybe, oh well, I hope you have a better day, or you want to engage, like, that's whatever. But like I think that we get stuck in trying to bring someone over to our way of thinking that we feel like we've failed the interaction if somebody walks away in the same way that they were determined to walk away, you know? And it just that's like, I don't know, you gotta have your you gotta have your shit together enough to understand if somebody's wallowing in their own shit.
And it's, again, it's about them. Like, I have a very religious family. Some members, some are just whatever, but some of them are pretty religious, and they really do. They just, and I always just say, these are your beliefs, not mine. These are
Yeah.
your beliefs, not mine. You know, and you have to recognize that you're not speaking for both of us. You're speaking for you. So I was watching this TikTok, and then I want to talk about the cards a little bit, but I was watching this TikTok of an ex-Mormon, and he was like, my religion is the best religion, it's the right religion, and thank God I was born at a time when the religion could be available to humanity, and thank God I was born white in America where it was accessible to me, and thank God.
I was born a man, in which, yeah.
Exactly, like all of these things, and I was laughing so hard because it's like, exactly. So everybody else in history, like, who wasn't exposed to this, like, you know, my friend in Ohio, who she's a wannabe Jew, but she always puts down Christians, and she's always like, I don't know why she puts down Christians. It's almost like she is one of them, but she has so much judgment against like them and the way they live. And I told her once, I was like, look, you know, you need to get out of Ohio, because like, look, there's people who practice Buddhism, Taoism, there are Hindus out there are pagans out there, and you are going to bat with these Christians for I don't even know why. When the reality is there are so many walks of life. There's Islam, like, go out there and like meet other people who don't even subscribe to this Judeo-Christian model.
Yeah. And like rid yourself of the active stress and issues that you're piling on yourself by putting yourself in the line of fire, like, consistently.
Yeah, go to Africa where the tribes worship nature. Like, go someplace where the belief system is so radically different from yours. And then go back to your Christians and your like needing to be right kind of mentality. Because there's a whole big world out there that doesn't even like use, like I said, the language that you use to describe reality. They don't. And they share the same planet as you. So open your brain a little bit, you know,
But
and
that would require that that person does some self-reflection, because they're getting tied up in that because they're getting something out of it, like a sense of superiority or something.
oh,
And if they
absolutely.
go elsewhere, they're gonna not find that, and there will be a problem still. But it's,
Imagine trying to go someplace where they've never heard of Christ, and you're like trying to
yeah,
tell them that
you're
what
like,
they
but
believe is wrong. And they're
Christ
like,
didn't make that. Yeah,
who's
ma'am, but didn't.
Jesus dude? Like,
Who's
who is
Christ?
that? Like, imagine showing up to some tribe in Brazil and you're like, the way you live your life is evil. And they're like, who are you?
Ma'am, this is a tribal Walmart or Wendy's. What the hell? You know, what are you talking about?
I know that, like, Christians think it's their job to rescue everybody, but it's not. Mind your own business. You
Yeah.
focus on your own salvation. Okay, I'll focus on mine.
Yep.
And again, I don't hate anybody, but I do get annoyed when there's just obscene amounts of misinformation coming out of them. They seem to be like the most like.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So anyway, but let's talk about like some of your practices. Like, obviously the tarot is one of them. And one thing I love about Necie is she uses the thought, thought, thought. I can never
The
say
tough.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thoth
Mhm.
deck.
I mean, it can be like people pronounce it different, you know, Thoth, Toth, Toth, blah, 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 you know.
And so give me, because I have studied this, but he comes from,
It's Aleister Crowley, so an aspect of like the Golden Dawn, so
But
which
isn't it some form of like the Kabbalah? Didn't it stem
well,
from
he has like Kabbalistic, like there's Kabbalah, astrology, um, numerology, of course. There's just a lot of different like symbolism that is inherent with this deck. He had Pamela, Lady Frida Harris, forget her name because I'm supposed to know it in this moment, but she illustrated it, and so he came up with this system because basically it was felt that the creator of the Rider-Waite deck, which is your stereotypical like tarot card, there's lots of decks these days, but the Rider-Waite deck is the standard. And it's believed that the creator of the Rider-Waite deck kept hidden some aspects of like the symbolism. And so it's not that the Rider-Waite deck is like wrong or false, but it's not complete, and it is not, by virtue of not being complete, it's not as in depth, like, and the Rider-Waite deck, don't get me wrong, you can get some very good readings with I started with the Rider-Waite deck. I mean, I started with it, but then I like immediately was in this deck, but I did a lot of research with the Rider-Waite deck. But this is the deck that I've been using, since I was like 16, I think it was. And literally, like, I have that deck. So this deck, I feel, encompasses a lot more. Both, you can be like superficial with it, like, does he think I'm cute? And you can be like, what is my life path if I were to go with him? I mean, it can get really, really nitty gritty, and the symbolism means that there's a lot of avenues to, visually like fixate on, depending on how it is you read tarot. Like, some people read tarot like the Hanged Man means this and that's it. But some people, like myself, I'm an intuitive reader, so I know what the Hanged Man means. And also, you're damn right, I write down what it means on the card itself, because I'm not going to sit here acting like, in school when we were told we weren't going to have calculators and we had to memorize how to do formulas. Anyhow, so stuff will call your attention, or like specific meanings will call your attention based on what it is that the person needs to hear or that you need to verbalize. And a lot of like this deck has a lot of geometrical shapes, which are just like it just adds to the concepts of, again, like, there's the Kabbalistic and the numerological and the astrological. I mean, so it just all kind of like hangs out together in a way that I think lets you really delve really deeply into some things. And some people, Paige, think it can be a very no nonsense, like direct and sometimes like aggressively, like an aggressive deck, which I agree it can be, but like, I don't want to pussyfoot.
Like, don't just ask any question unless you're really prepared for the answer when you deal with that deck.
Yeah. I mean, some of that depends on the reader too, but like, I have other decks that do communicate certain things a little bit nicer. This deck is like, how like sometimes people build an entire personality around, well, I just, I can't help it that that I'm blunt and I just tell the truth. There's ways that you can tell the truth. There's ways that you can be blunt that don't have to cut someone to fucking pieces. This deck doesn't really, this deck has no chill. So, so that's like it, but it's to the point. Like, it's very, very often it's like, it's too informative, So yeah, I love it.
Well, and Necie is really good at like 'Cause I've worked with so many intuitives, so many spiritual people who just have a natural knack for, whether they're an empath or whatever, and they all have their own gift in terms of how they present the information. And, some people will just give you like a top layer of something. Um, like, yeah, he does like you. Boom. Like you might get a typical response like that. Nisi is more like, so on the surface, on this part of his life, this is what's going on. Now, if we go underneath, like
Yeah.
she's really good at the layers and pulling out the psychology of like an individual or a situation. Just really, I don't know how else to put it, but this the multidimensional experience of whatever you're looking at, not just
Because it's important to know, like, does he like you or does he like the idea of you? Does he like you or does he like the way that you remind him of his mother? Does he like you or does he just want like an attractive thing on his arm? Like, and like
yeah.
I don't see the point in, yeah, he likes you. Like I've done the, I don't need to do those readings anymore.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm not available for like that level of stuff. Like there are other people who can do that level of stuff.
Mhm.
Like I'm here for when you want to get down to what are his intentions in the scope of him liking you? Like what is it that he sees in his life that you being there like is gonna like help him shine a light on or make progress towards, or are you just another just like his last one was?
Right. Are
You
you just
know?
repeating? Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing about being on the mystical side of anything, I really resonate with astrology. I've got plenty of I have the Thoth deck. I have it. I don't, it just kind of sits there, poor deck. I mean, I have multiple decks, but like I don't resonate with card readings. Like I've tried and they don't talk to me. And so like I said, I thought maybe it was the deck. So I've tried different decks. It's not my thing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just the modality. It's not your thing.
yeah.
It's I
But
mean, like for me, like
astrology
astrology
set in
is
front of me and I'll pick it apart and I can
yeah,
read all kinds of
exactly.
things off of it. And so that's what I find is really interesting too, is that it's like I have legitimately tried to pick up cards and to like have a communication or a conversation with them. And I'm like, I got
Like it's
nothing.
what like is this thing plugged in? Hello?
It's
Yeah.
true. And so and some of that might also be due to me kind of shutting down some of my own psychic ability, which I did about 20 years ago when I learned theta healing, because I was so well attuned at that time that it kind of overwhelmed me. So I don't know if that's part of that. The astrology is I don't know, for whatever reason, it just speaks to me. And not always. Sometimes I have to do the math and actually go, okay, well, this planet at this degree at this time in this house means X. But a lot of times when I'm reading a chart, I get a feel for the personality of a person.
Like it's you're like you're doing like a reading,
Mhm.
not just your reciting rote, well, when Saturn conjuncts Mars, I don't know
It's
that.
a violent
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like oftentimes I've been incredibly accurate with my predictive astrology, ironically. So
I mean,
um
but I very strongly feel like the majority of people, and I would say everybody, but we got to be careful with all or nones. But I would say the majority of people, like there is a divination method for you. It's just which one is it? and
mhm.
and so yours is astrology, that is in your energy with your background and your parent, like that is what is working for you. For me it is tarot. For other people it's palmistry. For other people it's
Human design.
popcorn, the runes. So i
Yeah.
just i i strongly feel like everybody can have something that they can, you know like go a step further than simply my intuition tells me.
Yeah, and it's amazing how the cards work. It really is.
Yeah, I mean and that's another thing, like how I mentioned earlier in this, like a long time ago, I stopped like, why? But why does the card work? Where is it? Like, how is it? They work, and the less that I try to sit here and beat the door down of like how, why, and show me where, and where's the little man behind the curtain, the better that they work for me. I mean, and so it's just, I mean, I don't know why it is, but if you ask me a question and the inverted wheel of fortune comes up, for whatever reason, whether it's you just needed to hear this to alter your course, or you just were unwilling to see something, inverted tower or inverted, wheel of fortune talks about like a turn for the worse, or something not panning out in a way that you were really expecting it to, and now that's a more than a damper, I mean. And so again, I don't know, are you hearing these words because you hearing these words is going to change your actions that you were prepared to take, or the way that you were prepared to invest your energy, or is the situation really the inverted wheel of fortune? You know what I mean? Like, at that point, that's a balance between me and the person getting the reading, like, in terms of, are they sitting in front of me simply to hear a message, and I'm not reading the situation, I'm reading what they need to hear so that they can get their ass into gear. Like,
Right. And I was gonna say, so much of what you do isn't to tell people what they want to hear, but to help them get conscious.
yeah. Yeah, no, I like, I did, for how I met you was I worked at the Psychic Eye, and therefore by virtue of that, I did, years of in-person, like, psychic readings, as well as phone psychic reading, like Madame Cleo, "Oh, he's cheating on you." No, but and so you get to know really quickly, like, who actually wants to be engaged in a psychic reading, and who, like, wants to hear what they want to hear. And I'm just the same, as I'm good on reading for people when all they want is does he like you? Yeah, he likes you. Like, I'm good on those people, and I'm good on the people who want to hear what they want to hear. Like, sometimes if I need, a couple dollars, I'll try to go through the reading, but I won't read again. I won't read again for somebody who I know is really just wanting me to, like, parrot back some kind of thing. Because usually what ends up happening with those people, because I'm not gonna lie, like, my integrity and, like, where I am in my path, like, that ain't happening. So they about to get a whole bunch of free shadow work that they were not prepared for, and they don't want to be dealing with, and it's not a good time for either of us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I remember you did a reading for me back in 2017, and I can't remember why I was asking for the reading, but I remember you were like, "Oh God, the tower is coming up," like something with your health, and I was like, no, don't say that. Like, no, it's not going to happen." And then a week later, I woke up with the worst kink in my neck. My neck was literally like glued to my shoulder. I was in so much pain. I remember thinking, "God damn it, Necie." I'll never
well,
forget that. I had to go straight to the chiropractor to get her to unkink, and I was so painful, the adjustment she did on me. I don't know how I slept that I woke up stuck in a position, but like that was the craziest thing ever happening, and hasn't happened since. It was the one and only time in my life. But I remember you were like, and you like threw again. You're like, "There it is again."
yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I mean, softening the blow, but still got to get the message across, and
Yeah.
it's just, it's funny that way, like how, because, like, that's, I definitely used to be one of those people that I was talking about in the example of, well, I'm just aggressively honest about stuff, and I can't, I'm like, I was a fucking bitch. about how, but now I'm, trying to work on my approach. Like, yes, you can speak the truth, but you don't have to speak it like all you have is like a razor thin, blade to deliver the truth. You can deliver it in different ways. And so I try to deliver these things that I am seeing or that need to be said in ways that the person will actually listen. You know, they'll actually receive the message. They'll actually like, even if it's not what they want to hear, and especially when it's not what they want to hear, like because at Psychic Eye, I don't know that that it would have been a great time for me to tell somebody that their health is going to be in the shitter. You know what I mean? Like, and so I mean, because especially a lot of these lessons were learned at the Psychic Eye, so I probably told you that because we had a relationship going where I felt like
Oh, you've been
to
long gone
hear.
since then. You've been long gone since then.
Well, yeah, I've been long gone since then, but I mean, in terms of just, just like, I mean, when I was doing a lot of those kinds of readings for just a lot of different people, like all day, like all day long, like, I don't want to sit here and argue with you about what you paid me to tell you that I'm seeing, and so it gets interesting. Sometimes it gets interesting.
Yeah.
But again, that's why, I've shifted into the concept of like you see like a lot of tarot readers. So there's tarot readers, and this is like not everybody is going to subscribe to this, but I don't care. This way of thinking, but there's like tarot readers who, again, yeah, he thinks you're nice, or yeah, he'd like to, ask you to marry him. He's just trying to figure out like what's the timing. Then there's like, and it's not like a specific term, but like a soul path reader. Like they're trying to actually help you learn things to like evolve and like get rid of your bullshit so you can keep on your path of like authenticity and be in alignment. Like, and as a tarot reader, you could easily pay the bills with the first group because there's always people that want to know like, am I going to get the job? Does he like me? Is he cheating on me? Will he come back? But as a person who's making a profession and a lifelong, path out of this, like my interests and like catharsis, like that is all in the second, like I would rather spend my time with somebody who is ready to like do some work in their life,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I'm sure for you too, like you doing an astrology reading, like what is the point of you doing a reading like for someone if like they're just, I don't know, just again they're just waiting to hear like what, oh well, so does this mean that I'm going to get a job or that I'm going to have a baby in this time frame? Yeah, it's just like, am I talking to a wall? Like what is going on
No,
here?
and that's the thing. I just love astrology. I don't do it that often. I don't read to people that often because of the energy it requires from me.
Yeah.
Um, I I was I pulled a chart for someone. She'd asked me to pull a chart. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Please read my chart." I looked at it. I looked at the next year, and I was like, "Let's talk another time." And she's like, "No, what do you see?" And I'm like, "No, let's talk another time."
I don't want to
It's like,
die.
"Oh, really, what do you see?" And I said, your relationship is not gonna like it's done.
Yeah.
You got Pluto and Uranus meeting up in the seventh house this year. It's done. Like you're not getting out of this one. And of course, 27-year-old girl, she didn't want to hear that. And I'm like, don't shoot the messenger. You
Well,
got,
and a lot of times they do. A
yeah.
lot of times they'll be like, "Oh, well, I'll prove Paige wrong, or I'll prove Necie wrong." And it's like, "Oh, well,
Yeah, because they don't want to confront that pain point, and
yeah,
she's been good about it. She's been like, it's dying bad. Like she's coming to that realization. She's deciding to move West Coast. She didn't leave Florida. But it's hard. It can be really, as a coach, because again, I am super empathic. So once I get a rapport with someone, not much is gonna get past me. If they're withholding information, I will know. I will
Yeah.
absolutely know. And so if they're lying, I have to figure out a way to pull that information out to keep the interactions authentic so the work is effective. But it can be tricky to pull information out of someone when they just don't want to look at it.
Yeah, no, and they're like dead set against it, and somehow you're gonna be at fault.
Right. And so people hate me because the confrontation factor, and the confrontation can simply just mean looking at, addressing it, like I
Yeah,
have to say a word for them to feel and know that I know what they don't want to look at.
yeah. I know that's I definitely have people that avoid me during like certain times or situations in their life because they feel like I'm gonna like either know what's up or call them out or and I'm just like now like these days like I won't I don't got no you if unless you ask me a question,
Right, right.
like I'm gonna stay in my lane.
If you're
And
paying me,
otherwise I'll support you. Like everyone wants support. I will support you. I might be like, well, okay, let me get a bigger pillow because you about to fall over, but I'm supporting you.
no, totally. And like even my fallout with a friend of mine, I mean, she was just a massive train wreck ready to happen. And there was no, I got exhausted by playing dumb. Just being in her presence, I had to play so dumb. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. Like, it was every corner of her life she was in denial of. It wasn't like one piece. Like, it was like everything, her marriage, her children, or her child, her work, everything was just on the verge of like falling apart. And I'm like, yeah. And then whenever I would kind of try to pull and get her to stretch a little bit, she would accuse me of not accepting her. And I'm like, you're the one that is obsessed with growth. And yeah, when I'm asking you to stretch, you're like, fuck you. So, I will do that with clients because they're paying for it, but I can't surround myself with people who want to live in that much denial. It's too difficult for me.
Yeah. No,
So difficult for me. If they're, and like I said, if it's just one aspect of their life and I'm not really personal with them, it's fine. But if it's like every aspect of their life and now I have to join in on the lie just to hang out with them, like I just can't.
it's
I
not
gotta.
worth your time, and it's like nobody's getting anything out
So
of it.
yeah, because when you have a natural intuition about things, or you're very empathic or psychic naturally, it's a part of you. Like I said at the beginning of this, if I were to subscribe to any of these Western patriarchal systems, I would have to deny that aspect of myself, which I will not do.
Mhm.
And that's that. So Nisi, if there is something that you could share, because it's about time to wrap it up, but if there is something that you could share that you really wish people understood about just your way of life, what would that be? And then secondly, where can people find you if they want your help?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's more like stuff that's and that's aligned with like the shadow work stuff. Like the more like regardless of what someone believes in, we're all trying to find meaning and we're trying to live a life of meaning. And so I practice uh, witchcraft, and it gives me meaning, it gives me, aspects of guidance, it gives me things to place modicums of my faith in and to take empowerment and personal responsibility and to do things and to shift and to be in realizations of different parts of myself, inner child and etc. And so I would just want someone to like understand that for them it might not be witchcraft, for them it might be a different religious belief, but it might not even be religion. Like like for someone like working out like could provide for them the value that I get from this practice. And so ultimately just like being honest with yourself about what drives you to feel meaningful and to like feel like you're in alignment with yourself or something, like a trajectory, like just like go for that, you know. And if it means you got to go to counseling, if it means you got to go to therapy, if it means you got to get some tarot readings, if it means you got to do spell crafting, if you got to do yoga, if you've got to, you know, go to a top of a mountain, you know, if you've got to go live as a nun, like stop ascribing meaning to what the vehicle of getting to your realization is, and like start getting in the vehicle and going and figuring that out on the way,
Sure.
because you are going to be in a much better place,
Yeah.
literally and you know, like and metaphysically speaking. So and then I I think I have a website. I don't remember if I paid for it again this year. I think I did, but it's like Ivum Tarot. So my practice overall is Ivum, AEVUM. I wonder if I still own that.
You have an Instagram?
Yes, it's ivumtarot.lv.
Awesome. I will put it on the video when I post it. So
Yes,
if
I
anyone's interested.
don't know.
One thing I love about Necie is she does have this like very mystical side to her, and yet when we just talk, it couldn't be more plain as day. It's not like we talk about anything crazy. It's you know, like our conversations are just like any other conversation with any other one of my female friends, you know, just a little additional like intuition.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just want people to thrive and not just survive, you know. And so however I can help, man. Like that's you know, because that's what I would want for myself. So
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, and she's a good person. She's a great person. I don't have long-term friends with people who suck. So, and I've known her a long time. So anyway, well, thank you for joining me on my channel here.
thank you for having me.
And she's going to be a part of the community that I'm building. I'm very excited because I love her insight. And so, you know, that's going to be part of her job, is to help women to get more connected to themselves and others. So, yeah, stay tuned. But otherwise, Necie, thank you for joining us. And
Thank you.
yeah, we will definitely be talking again soon.
Hey.
All right, bye.
Bye.